Hi everybody, it's Reva with Quality Sewing and Vacuum, and we're going to talk about decorative stitches today, and we're going to talk about making nice decorative stitches and having them turn out. I don't know about you, but sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. And then you're thinking, man, I got a lot of decorative stitches on my machine and I don't even use them. Well, start using them. They're beautiful. In fact, back in the day, we used to use decorative stitches as for embroidery because there wasn't hooped embroidery. So we would do things like make carrots out of triangles and all sorts of stuff. So you can have lots of fun with that. But we're going to talk about how to make some basic decorative stitches and the basics of how to get a good stitch. So first of all, I want to tell you guys hi. Thanks for putting in the chat where you're from. It's nice to see you. And let's get going, shall we? So what you're going to want to have is some fabric. Right? We want to have some fabric. You want to have some pretty thread. I have some embroidery thread on the machine right now. And then you want to use the right foot for the stitch that you're using. So let's talk really quick about the foot that you're going to use. This foot right here is a standard sewing foot. You can see it has just that little, like a little boat ramp right there. And that's designed for straight stitches and stitches like zigzags and overcast stitches to flow up on the back of the machine. However, you will have one that can do decorative stitches. Let's take a look at this guy. And look, he has a tunnel. And this tunnel is used so that way the satin stitches and the thick, juicy stitches have a place to go and they won't get hung up on the foot. So we're going to put this one on, and this is going to help us out a lot. Let me move my thread because my thread was trying to get in there all locked up. Okay, so let's pop that in there, and I put my other foot back. Now we have a piece of fabric right here, and I have a piece of tearaway stabilizer. Now this stabilizer is great. It's a standard medium weight tearaway, but it's a little bit stiff. So I want to show you my favorite stabilizer. I'm going to take this one out and just set it to the side for a minute. It's good stabilizer. You can use it. But what I really like is this is called Select Tearaway, and it's from Quilter Select. What this is, it's a lighter weight tearaway, and it has kind of a waxy surface on the one side. So we're going to be able to iron that to our fabric. So let me just cut a little piece of this here. And you really only need a piece that's wide enough to go under where you're stitching. And right now this piece is much larger than I need, but that's okay. So let me take this over to my iron, and I'm going to press this on, and it's an easily removable item. It's not a permanent fuse by any stretch of the imagination. It just is a light hold, so that way it won't go anywhere. Okay, so we're going to use that, and we're going to position our fabric right underneath the foot, and I'm going to put my foot down just to hold it there. And now let's go look at the stitches. So when you're looking at your machine, you may have your regular stitches here at the top, and you might have a different category to get to decorative stitches, and that's what we're going to look at today. So one thing to know about doing decorative stitches is you want to have some patience, because they do take longer to stitch out than a regular stitch. So let's take a look at here and see if anything makes us happy. I really like that. Whoops. I liked this stitch. Where did he go? Where did he go? He was so cute. Well, there's so many to choose from. Okay, let's see. You know, I was trying to find the same one, but I'm not going to find the same one. So I'll just pick that one right there. Now, it tells you which foot to use, and that's what I have on the machine right there. I love it that the machines will tell us which foot to use. But let's go ahead and start stitching. Now, I'm going to use my my go button. I'm not using the foot control, and the machine is just feeding the fabric through. Now I am not helping the fabric. I am letting the fabric go. I'm simply guiding it so it sews straight. Okay, the last thing that we want to do is help the fabric, because you know what? It doesn't need us, and that's when you're going to mess up. So I'm going to go ahead and let's take a look at that stitch. And you can see how nice that stitched out, even though I went crooked, but how nice it stitched out with using that piece of stabilizer. And it's, again, it's a lightweight, and it tears off really easy off of the fabric. Now let's take a look at our stitches again, and I'm going to go up here and let's see if we can take a look. Let's go over to satin stitches, because satin stitches are where you generally have more of a challenge with stabilization. So I'm going to go there. Let's see if we have him. He's a 7mm wide stitch. I think that all looks good. And we're going to come in here and let's do the same thing again. We're just going to stitch, and I'm not going to guide, I'm not going to help it. I'm just going to guide it. And this one is a simple, it only progresses forward. It doesn't go sideways. So this one's easier to keep straight. Now I want to show you real quick this stitch. You see how it's a little bit loose and airy? I'm going to thicken that up. So come back over here, and I want to change the length, or the length of it, and I'm going to make it a little bit more compact. Now I made it more compact, but it's the same width. So if I wanted the look I had before, I need to decrease my width as well, so that way it stays in perspective. When you do this, you change the width and the length here, it does not add or take out stitches. So let's just continue stitching this one out now that we made that modification, and I think you'll see it's going to stitch out really pretty, because it's going to have more of a luscious, thick look to it. So this is really, really easy. Let's do a couple, and then let's stop it, and we'll take a look at it here. And yes, it's smaller, but look at how much thicker that is than the open area here. Now, real quick, I'm going to pull back my stabilizer, and let's stitch the same stitch on the fabric without a stabilizer. And let's see what happens to it. Just letting it go. Can you see this is getting more ruffled than it was before? It's probably going to turn out fine, but I want you to notice the difference. So let's go ahead and cut our thread. So now it's quite, let me see if I can get the shadow in there so you can see what I'm seeing. Can you see? Probably you can't. Let's see. Can you see how it's wobbly? It's got a lot of ruffle to it, and then it's also starting to bunch the fabric together. So at this very end, can you see that little pleat that's starting to form right there? That's because there wasn't a stabilizer underneath the design. Now let's take a look at the back side real quick, and let's talk about removing the stabilizer. Now this is that lightweight tearaway, so I'm just going to tear it and get it off there. Then when we're going to tear it off, if you tear it toward the, like angled down toward the stitch, the row of stitches, then it will tear off really simply. And it's just so simple to tear off. And this stabilizer, being that it's so lightweight, it doesn't, it's not going to impact the stitches or rip the stitch off. You know, you won't break the bobbin thread, which is really pretty cool. I want to show you a couple of things that are using decorative stitches, because if you're still thinking, what on earth would you use decorative stitches for? Well, you can do some beautiful things. This is hooped embroidery here, but all of these things have all been done using decorative stitches, and that's really a lot of fun to do. Okay, so when you put a couple of different decorative stitches together, it makes more of an impact, and it's really pretty fun. And this piece here was stitched on the side with a entre-deux stitch, and then we have this pretty star pattern in the side. So that's using two distinct stitches there. And then we also have, this is a fun thing to do. This is just a little pillow cover, but use your decorative stitches to go over the edges of your seams, which is kind of like what a crazy quilt does, but this is a little bit more contemporary in that way. Now, another one that I have to show you is using your decorative stitches individually. So this is the star stitch, or kind of like the daisy stitch, and then I used a wing needle, and I wove a ribbon, a silk ribbon up through the holes, in and out. And then this is that stitch we just did. You see that? And I used them one at a time and then built them around the whole thing. I'm going the wrong way. There he is. Right there. So I went around that and I started in the center and worked my way out, and pre-mark your fabric with how you want that to go. Another thing that you can do is use your decorative stitches for a background. So on here, this piece is done with that little daisy stitch with the straight stitch in between it. And so then that gives a background when you sew rows and rows together and then you go back the other way. The opposite way is just simply a straight stitch. And then use your decorative stitches to go around the edges here, which is really pretty fun. Okay, now another thing that you can do, this is similar, and this is just basically with a straight stitch. Let me turn it this way so it looks good. The crosshatch was done with a straight stitch using a triple straight stitch, I should say, using a metallic thread, and then doing one repeat of a cute little decorative stitch in each one of the 4 quadrants, and then the decorative stitch around the outside edge. So that's really fun. So there's tons of things that you can do with the decorative stitches, which is fun. But what's really important to know is that you want to make sure you have your stabilizer there. Now I'm going to iron this back on because I want to show you something else that you can do with your decorative stitches. So I'm going to get that piece back on there. Isn't that nice? You can reuse it. It's really handy. Okay, so now I want to show you how to do a raised decorative stitch. So one that has dimension, so it won't just sit flat, it's going to have a bit of a raise to it. So I'm going to come over here to, I'm going to go back to just a utility stitch, and I'm going to choose just this basic zigzag. And let's see if I can get one that I can make wider. And then I want to make it really compact. Not really compact. I'm going to actually leave this one open a little bit. And I'm going to go down. So now I'm at a 4.5 stitch width. This machine does 7, so a 4.5 is good. Let's put this down, and I'm going to make a row of just the 4.5. Okay, now this is my foundation. Okay, so there's my 4.5. It's just really kind of boring. He's sad all by himself. But now I'm going to line my foot up right over the top, centered right over where we were. And I'm going to make it a little bit wider and a little bit more dense. Okay, and then we're going to stitch right over the top of it. So this is going to now build upon the stitches that were underneath and build upon it. Okay, so we'll stop at the same spot. Now it's getting a little bit more dimension because we have 2 layers of thread. So the next step that we're going to do is we're going to come back here, and I'm going to make it 5 is all I can go on that one. So let me switch to a different stitch, and let's see if I can get this one wider than a 5. I'm going to go to a 6, and I want to take this down to be more dense, and then we're going to stitch on top of this one. So each pass you make, you're making it more pronounced. Okay, so that's the last pass I'm going to make on, well, the last stitch on that one. So now I'm going to come back, and I'm going to take this up as wide as I can go, which is 7 millimeters, and take it down so it's really thick. And now when we stitch this out, we have all that foundation underneath it. So now it's going to be really pretty and luscious right over the top. Okay. Now another thing that I want to show you is how to do stitch building. So this makes a really nice middle of design right down the center. Really fun to do things like this on a ribbon, because braid is so expensive and fancy ribbons are so expensive. But look at how nice and luscious that is. And I don't know that you're going to really be able to see the dimension that it has. You can kind of see a little bit the lump that's formed there. Okay, so now let's take a triple straight stitch, and that is stitched, I'm going to stitch that right down the side of each side of this piece. And that's going to give us a finished look. Now, when you're doing a decorative stitch, it's okay to use your start stop button versus your foot control, because you're stitching, it's going multiple directions back and forth and all those things, so it's really not going to get away from you. I pushed the wrong button there. I got to get them placed right where I want them to go. And then, so it's best to keep an even cadence when you're stitching a decorative stitch. So it's actually better to use your start stop button, so that way you're going to have an even progression. And look at how that cleaned up the sides really nice there. Now, if you want to make it even fancier, we're going to come over to a decorative stitch, and let's get, come on. Oh yes, I do want to delete that one. And let's grab there's one that's a scrolly that's so pretty. Let me see if I can find him. You know, they hide when you don't know where you're when you're looking for him, I should say. Okay, is he in here? Maybe he's in the second section. What I want to find is one that is straight on one side, and then like this one right here. It's straight on one side, and then it has a pattern on the other side. So that one's good. Maybe we should do a zigzag, not a zigzag, a satin stitch. Let's do like a scallop. Scallop would be fun. Oh no, that one's really pretty. Look at that one, that's really pretty. Okay, let's try that one. I like that one. So what I'm going to do is, as I said, we're going to go back. I'm going to actually reverse this, and I want to stitch down this side. It's going to stitch with the straight on the left hand side, and I want to stitch right down the side here. So I'm going to stitch and have it do the decorative stitches, and again, I'm just simply guiding it. I'm not going to help it, because the feed dogs are so good, and if we help it, that's when it gets away from us. Okay. In fact, you'll distort the stitch, it'll end up looking like something else. So look at how fun that is. If you start doing your stitch building, you can work your way out and create something really fun. Right, isn't that fun? So you can have lots of fun with decorative stitches. The thing to remember is to use the right foot. Make sure you have stabilizer on with your fabric. My favorite's the Select Tearaway from Quilter Select, but you can use a regular one. Just be really gentle when you're pulling the stabilizer away from the stitches. Don't use a heavyweight, medium's okay. And then experiment with different threads. It's okay to overlap and do decorative stitches and change color and do some fun things like that. So you can have lots of fun using your decorative stitches, and we look forward to seeing you the next time on our How Do I?